welcome to another episode of the Friday Night Movie Podcast. All three siblings are in the same room together. This will be the last time we're in the same room together for a while. Like a month, yeah. Okay, fair enough. And we have one microphone to share that we're going to pass around. So the sound quality...
I'm already so annoyed because I just want to interrupt you and I can't.
So, most importantly, at the top here, this episode will drop back in time, and we have been nominated for a Signal Award for Best Co-Host Team in a Best Co-Host Team in a limited series for our coverage of South by Southwest. So, the last few days to vote. Hop on the old internet. The links will be in the episode and all over our socials. Vote for Friday Night Movie. We're in the lead right now, which is amazing.
Should we welcome Lily back to the show?
Oh, yeah. Lily, welcome back to the show. Becky and I have been doing episodes together for weeks.
Like 2 weeks. Let's calm down.
Definitely.
I did one. Well, you didn't invite me. I never got invited.
We had to rattle them off.
So I didn't, it wasn't on my schedule. So I didn't know. I wasn't sure we were doing the podcast anymore.
We are still doing the podcast, and we're going to do things a little different, not differently today, differently than we've been doing them, because we're going to actually talk about a movie, which is great. We're going to talk about Barbie pretty soon, because Lily finally watched Barbie. It was just her birthday. And but before that, Lily, you've had a very special weekend. You went to your first Philadelphia Eagles football game today, and I think you made an adventure of it. So why don't you just fill us in on what happened today?
First of all, it was way louder than I thought it was going to be. Vlad warned me as I was leaving the house. He was like, maybe you should bring earplugs. And I was like, what do you know about a football game? And then I got to the stadium and I was like, oh my God, my eardrums. I cannot believe how loud that is. It's wild. I pulled what we call a Vanya, a mom, and I left my cell phone in the Uber on the way to the stadium. How many people are in that stadium?
80,000.
So there's 160,000 people on the street, because 80,000 people go to the stadium, but they can't watch the game. So they have the nightmare without the actual game part of being in that the biggest parking lot I've ever seen in my life. The parking lot has parking lots.
It's actually 3 stadiums parking lots.
It's terrible. Whose idea was that? They're like, let's just put 3 stadiums and just make one gigantic parking lot. Holy Jesus. And I cannot believe how many people are there and they don't actually have tickets to see the game. Shai was like, they just want to be around the people going to the game. This is terrible. That sounds terrible. I don't understand. I was like, why would you be here? But yes, as soon as we get out of the Uber, there's, 1,000 cars in traffic. It was faster to walk, and the Uber is just now stuck in the nightmare of stadium traffic while we walk to where we're going to the tailgate. And as we get into the parking lot, I say to Shai, I left my phone. And
you left your phone
in the Uber. And Shai was like, well, you're never getting it back. It's lost forever. He was like, just forget it. Your eldest turned to me and she goes, just buy a new one. I was like, well, normally I would just buy a new one. I was like, well, I said to your eldest, normally I would buy a new one. I am not going to do that because it's very expensive and I want it now.
And you're getting on a plane tomorrow.
Yes, I am getting on a plane tomorrow. Yeah.
Plenty of time to go buy a new phone. I tell you.
No, to set it up.
Hold on. I've heard this story and I'm going to go into Lily's retelling it of 100%, which was eat it and bought a new phone based on what you've told me. So if you knew then what you know now of what it would have taken to get it back and how much walking you had to do.
That's not what you say to people who have done heroic things. I knew it was going to take something. Shai was so negative at first. And I think he saw my desperation. And I was like, Shai, make a phone call.
I was also overwhelmed.
Because there's 180,000 people on the street.
And we were taking 4 children to their first...
The smallest one being 5 years old.
Yeah, football game.
Which is a lot.
So there was a lot of Plus you, who was the hardest one to keep track of.
Yeah, I knew we were trying to meet our uncle in the parking lot, too.
I high-fived all the children and said, thank you all
for keeping it together.
For being more responsible than my adult sister.
Oh, my God. It was so embarrassing. And your eldest lent me her phone, thankfully, so I could go on this adventure. It was like, Becky, it was like that movie Onward from Pixar. That's what it was like. And Shai stayed in the parking lot, and he was my, like, comms to the Uber driver as I ventured into the Philadelphia sun. It was also 1,000 degrees today.
Because it was my Uber, and so I was the only one who could call him.
But I thought they'd give you their phone numbers.
No, you have to call through Uber. So I was then conferencing Lillian as she's running after the car.
And I was saying to Shai, has no one ever left anything in an Uber? What is this garbage that you can't get in touch with them?
If you leave something in your Uber and you go to a restaurant in a city where there's just a normal amount of cars,
they can come and drop it off for you.
They can come and drop it off. You can coordinate a drop off. I once left sunglasses in an Uber. In a day or two, they dropped them off at the house. The answer is you can't forget something in an Uber when it's in a field of 80,000 people.
It was ridiculous. And I literally walked through a sea of human beings to trek. I don't know. It was like a 40-minute walk. I don't know how long I walked for. And I got my phone back. Uber driver is very nice. And then I trekked back to the stadium, and I found you just in time before you had to go to... Hey, had you left to go into the stadium to go to the seats and emailed me my ticket, I never would have made it.
I wasn't going to leave without you. Also, it was those electronic tickets that you can't transfer.
Yeah.
So I was stuck.
So thank God I got back in time, and we made it to our seats, which were back at Mom and Dad's apartment. That's how far they were from the field. Yeah, we were on the second to last row of the whole entire stadium at the very, very top. I've never gone that far. I've never walked that high up, ever. It was like walking to the top of a 30-story building from the street. It was. I walked 16,000 steps today, and I went to a football game.
And then
I had a big day.
Yeah, but you added a lot of extra steps in there.
True. But yeah, it was epic. It was really fun. Singing the fight song and screaming at the crowd. If you don't scream, they get so mad at you. They're crazy. You have to
scream at the right time.
Yeah.
Lily learned a lot.
They say, get louder. And then when they don't want you to scream, nobody screams. It's very specific.
And then we did something else epic today. We had a Friday night movie on a Sunday, but we had a Friday night movie.
I don't even know what day of the week it is.
That's fair enough.
I have no concept of time anymore.
Our first movie together in a long time.
We haven't been talking about movies in a while, but we're going to start talking about movies again. And so here we are. We saw I saw Barbie for my third time. Becky,
you did sleep through part of it.
Saw is a loose term
right
now for you.
Yeah, I take a 20-minute nap in almost every movie I see.
The best part of you napping in this is that you'd be in a deep sleep, and right at the moment of one of the favorite lines or the best moments, you'd just even with your eyes still closed, just go, and then you'd go right back to sleep. That was my second time.
Okay,
and it was only your second time?
No, I saw it twice in the theater. No. I saw it once, and then I went back with Becky, and then. Now, Lily, you just saw it. Yeah. Your immediate reaction.
This is the prettiest movie I've ever seen. It's so pretty. It's so, there's so much to look at. It's like being in a museum or something. It's quite spectacular. And sorry, but Ryan Gosling steals the show. Don't put him in your movie if you don't want him to steal the show. He was so funny. Oscar worthy. He was so good. He was perfect. He was just brilliant. I loved him very much. I mean, everybody was great, but he was particularly hilarious.
I agree. I put him and America Ferrera down for supporting actor Oscars. I don't know. I mean, I don't know anything about which Oscars, what's going to contend for an Oscar this year, but I would lock those two right now.
That Barbie contends.
I think so far, Barbie's probably the best big movie I've seen this year. I mean, the other one is Guardians of the Galaxy 3.
I haven't seen that yet.
And no one's giving that an Oscar. But I just feel like, don't you feel like the Academy wouldn't take Barbie serious enough to give, right? Like they'll pick Oppenheimer.
I think you mean Kenough.
To give it.
Oh, Oppenheimer. Yeah, I guess that's the other movie people are talking about.
Now, Becky, is Oppenheimer one of those movies that you're not going to see but pretend to see?
Oh, that's a perfect movie for Becky to pretend to see.
Typically, I would not see it and pretend to see it, but I am now married to someone who 100% will make me watch it. It'll be like a Saturday night. I'll be like, let's go do something fun. He's like, oh, I have a great idea. And then he'll make me watch that. I know it's coming. So I'll report back after.
I mean, it's obviously great. Just, it's, I've now seen Barbie, 2 Oppenheimers worth of Barbie. And I feel great about that. I like my choices. I can sit in them.
They make the bomb at the end, and then they use it. Like it's just, I'm just saying, like it's like terrible. Why? Like I don't know why they make it, and then they drop it on people. It's just like it just seems. I don't know if I want to sit there and try to understand the psychology of that for 3 hours. Although Christopher Nolan's a genius, like he can do anything, but sounds like a slog.
All right. Okay. So we talked about Ryan Gosling. We talked about America Ferrera. Who is your top 3 or 4 cast member MVP of Barbie? So
Rhea Perlman.
Oh.
Absolutely, because first of all, talk about wonderful representation of Jewish women in film and authentic, and an important person who very easily could have been written out of this story. But
she was a criminal, though, right? In real life.
Well, it's tax evasion, whatever. And then she really, she's the one that at the emotional climax of the film, she's there to guide our protagonist through that. And so I think like both story-wise, she's the MVP. And then Rhea Perlman is just so wonderful herself and what she brings to the table for, as this character. So yeah, Rhea Perlman's my MVP.
Kate McKinnon.
That doesn't count as our main character. Who are you counting?
I was counting Barbie, Ken, America Ferrera, the kid.
Will Ferrell.
No, but he's not. No, he's a side character. You could pick.
That's it. Anybody but those 4, right? I don't know. Kate McKinnon. Okay, fine.
Pick Kate McKinnon. That's fine.
Issa Rae? Is it Issa? Issa. I'm terrible at pronouncing people's names. Issa Rae was great. Okay, if we're not going as mean.
I guess I don't mean to tell you what to do.
But McKinnon, like, it was so smart. You know what I like about this movie? And Shai, you'll appreciate this. You can tell the person who made this movie loves Barbies and played with Barbies.
Right.
And while it's a beautiful criticism and takedown of the world that we live in and the stereotypes that we deal with, and the patriarchy, obviously, it also has so much joy around the actual toys that this inspired. And Weird Barbie is absolutely like all of Becky's kids are weird. They only have weird Barbies, right? Poor children.
They take Barbies and immediately rip like the skull with the hair part of it like off. We also have like a lot of knockoff Barbies. Actually, I will say they're actual real Barbie brand Barbies they take care of. It's all the other imitation, just like dolls.
Can you tell us more about the skulls being
so
ripped out?
So they have like these dolls that are from the Ladybug show, and they're really terribly made. But so like the hair it's like, imagine the face is one component, but then the entire hair skull part is another piece of the head, and they just like there's a lot of them missing the hair part, so it's just a body with a face on it and like a
no skull
and like a cavern in the back. Oh my God. Also, they're all naked.
Weird.
And typically, the boy character is wearing all the girls' clothes, and all the girls are naked. Yeah.
For me, it's Simu Liu, who if someone's going to steal the movie from Ryan Gosling, it's Simu Liu, because holy moly.
He was great.
He was great as the rival Ken. Just clearly looked like he was enjoying himself every moment.
Everybody really does.
Yeah,
everybody looks like they had just had the best time on that film. Like, everybody looks like they were having so much fun. It was such a fun...
Okay.
Vibe.
Okay, my next question. There is some great. One of my favorite things in the world is a great music moment, and you're gonna buy, rent, and med. There's 3 music moments I'm gonna throw out to you here. Okay, so you have Pink, the opening song, and both versions, because you got to kind of sandwich them together. Because there's there's like the Bad Day version and the regular version by Lizzo. Then there is the Ken song. And then there is it Billie Eilish, who is like the sort of emotional core song there?
Okay, so the dance montage, like the dance scene at her house that first night, that doesn't count.
I'm not counting it in this by Rent or Meh. I'm putting those 3 songs.
I love that moment.
Okay.
But okay, those 3 songs. Ken, obviously, the Ken song was hilarious. And then the emotional moment. I thought that was very beautiful. And then the Barbie dream house moment. Because I was so distracted. But it's the first scene of the movie. I'm so distracted by everything I'm seeing. I didn't even hear the song.
Becky?
The thing about the Ken song is that it's so good and it's so absurd that you just have this, like, movie going on where there's some music throughout and there's some cute moments with it, and then this song is so good they're like, wait, we're gonna pause it, actually make it a musical for the next 7 minutes because it's so good.
It's, like, narratively fits anywhere in that moment. Like, I don't understand why it's there, but they were like, we need this and let's put it in, and it's worth it.
I respect that.
Yeah, so I think the gutsiness to go all in on that Ken song and to stand by it so hard to say, now we're just going to have a musical because they love the song so much. Really, I respect the choice, so I will buy that. I will rent the opening song because it's so exciting and flashy, and it hooks you in and gets you right into the world right away, you know? Which is very important. And I'm going to meh the emotional song because I just cry very, very hard during it. And it's like, it's a lot.
So I have a similar reaction to Becky. Buy the Ken song, rent the song, the opening song, because I love the way it very subtly breaks the fourth wall. Like, K, death, and the way Liz was kind of talking to you, but if you're not paying attention, you don't really realize it.
Point, yeah.
I love that, and then also because I don't like to cry in movies and cry in general.
Did it make you emotional?
It makes me. I didn't watch this time. This time I just like looked at my phone and like tried to fall back asleep.
But when you saw it the first time in the theater,
the first time a little bit, the second time more. But I didn't cry. But like this time I was like, nope, just gonna shut my heart down for this because I can't take it. So that's why. But they're all amazing. So So we're just talking about this movie, which is like a brilliant comment on feminism and patriarchy and equality but like how do we reconcile the fact that a lot of the things that we've talked about here are the male elements of this movie? How does it end up that way that
cast Ryan Gosling? I don't know what to tell you. It's not my fault.
Make worse casting choices, then we won't be as interested in.
Because he was just so good. But there's so much, like, non-patriarchal things about the film that are amazing. It just happens to be that he's so excellent.
Here's my theory.
Yeah.
So my theory is, and this goes back to whether it's Batman or Die Hard or Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves, or wrestling.
Interesting.
You need a great villain, and it's not so like these are the standout moments we're talking about. But it's also because they made the villains, they're not really villains in Barbie, but they made them so compelling that made the stakes and everything in the movie so much better. So it's not that Margot Robbie isn't amazing. And in fact, on my third time watching it, because there's so much happening in this movie, I really got to just totally focus on her and she is incredible in this movie, and in some ways, like, I don't know, very generous to let all of these big flashy things happen around her, but she's the glue in this movie. But making the villains so over the top and enjoyable, I think, is part of what makes it a great movie. But it's not necessarily that like one's better than the other, but it is funny. Anyways, it's like Jack Nicholson is the Joker, or Alan Rickman anytime he was a villain.
Right.
You make a good villain, the movie's going to be good.
Right, and he, you know, he did get a lot of the funnier jokes. Like, she's kind of the straight man in a way in the movie, and he is getting, I mean, him and Kate McKinnon got so much great material to work with, and they leaned in so hard that the whole movie is great, but that really stands out. I did love all the other Barbies, though. Like, all of the other Barbies. It's very funny. And they're great, but
the buffoonery of men really does stand out in this.
Yeah, it does.
They're not to be emulated.
Yeah.
All right, so we tagged a few things that we think for Oscars. Any other things that you saw in this movie that you think are Oscar worthy?
Oh my God, the production design, the art has to win. Like, they should win this year and next year. Like, they should give them two.
The costumes are insane. They're
all real, like, actual Barbie clothes that they historically had.
I think so. I mean, I don't know. Either way, it's
spectacular.
It's that feeling. It brings back that feeling. I remember so well being a kid and how badly, you know, I wanted the Barbie convertible or the Barbie outfits, right? And watching it, you have that feeling again of like, oh my God, I wish I could wear those.
Stuff. We only got Barbies. We never got the house or the car.
I had the white convertible. Shut your mouth. Yes, I did. It was a huge deal.
And didn't you guys have some sort of camper van or Winnebago or something like that?
Maybe Becky.
No, I just had the white convertible. It was a huge deal.
But we didn't ever get the house. We never had the house.
No.
I'm pretty sure you had a Winnebago because I would take your Barbie things for my G.I. Joes and use them as like...
Maybe that's why we didn't have the Winnebago, because you took it.
I would go to Julia Brownstein's house and play with her Barbie dream house. I'd bring my Barbies over to her house when they lived on our block, and we would play in their playroom with her Barbie dream house. It had an elevator, and I thought it was real.
I remember
100% convinced it was a real house.
I remember in my mind Ken had brown hair. And then
some Kens do.
And then you got like a blonde Ken, though. Is that right? Did you have a blonde Ken?
Yeah, I did. We did have a blonde Ken, but I only had one Ken because you don't need more than one. Honestly, the best line. Can I just say two best lines in the movie is when he's like, "Can I come over?" and she's like, "Why?" and he's like, "I don't know." That's like the best. That's the best. And the second best line, not to get emotional, but the second best line is when I think is it Rhea Perlman that says, Mothers stand still so that their daughters can see how far they've come. Oof, that line is very beautiful. It's like, way to go, Greta Gerwig. Just messing up our shit right now. But yeah, that of jokes that, you know, I don't know what we would do at your house. That was just perfection.
My other favorite line is favorite because of how much Becky loves it, which is when Will Ferrell says, "Some of my best friends are Jewish," with no context.
No context.
You could tell it's written by Jews. And he's obviously like, I bet they didn't write any. I know what I find interesting is that Greta Gerwig said that the script is exactly how it was written. Nobody ad-libbed. There was no improv. Although I just find it really hard to believe. I feel like there should be an asterisk except for Will Ferrell. Right. Like, I mean, maybe not that joke, because obviously they wrote that joke because they're Jewish, but just some of the shenanigans that Will Ferrell does, I feel like that's just so him. I don't know. That's a real gift to be able to get Will Ferrell as a side character in your movie. It's pretty cool.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So I read, and I wish I remember where the headline was, but there was a headline that was something to the effect of like Warner Brothers planning Barbie sequel, and then like My Little Pony movie or Hot Wheels, whatever, a bunch of other toys.
Polly Pocket.
And then the really intelligent person who posted this, which now I forget who it is, so I'm really sorry, said something to the effect of, "It seems that Warner Brothers is like learning the wrong lesson from this." Right? Like, instead of making more intelligent, creator-driven movies, they're like
supporting women.
Let's like more toy movies. So that being said,
sounds about right though.
So that being said, what is there another toy movie that you would want to see made?
I did love myself some My Little Ponies. I had a lot of them. I don't know.
So like a live action My Little Pony?
I mean, maybe. My God. But not for me as an adult, but for me as a kid to be able to watch a bunch of colorful horses speak. And that's like my dream movie as a child.
What about a live action version of the Care Bear movie with the haunted book?
No, that's like too scary. That would be like whatever the Insidious movies. Like that would be so scary. But I would go for a remastering re-release of the original in theaters. Oh my God, I love that movie.
What about you, Becky?
Toys were so weird back then.
What toys did I even play with?
I was just thinking, did Becky play with toys?
Not really.
She had a rock collection.
I have a long list, but lately
You have so many toys.
this YouTube channel that I love, Secret Galaxy, which used to be called Toy Galaxy, Dan Larson, he did a whole history of the show Inhumanoids, which was like beyond terrifying. It was a cartoon made by anyways, it had all the same voice actors as G.I. Joe and Transformers, but it had like this villain called Decompose that if he touched people, he'd turn them into zombies. And at one point, he turns the female character of the good guys into like a zombie and tries to marry her and stuff. Anyways, it's a truly terrifying show for little kids, but it would have made could make a cool movie. And it had a whole environmentalism theme to it, I think.
I would say of all the movies that have been made from toys, which there are many, this has to be the best one. Like where the toy came first and then the show or the movie.
Right. Like, so Ninja Turtles doesn't count because it was it was already something with a narrative before.
Right. But Transformers, that was a toy that they made into a television show based on a toy.
Yeah.
And there's others. I'm sure there's many, but this is obviously the best one.
I think Go-Go Corey Carson was toys before it became a show.
That's a great example.
Pretty sure.
That's a good show. I want to see the like high art meta version of it, like Barbie, though, of Go-Go Corey Carson, like Go-Go Corey Carson having an existential crisis.
Technology is taking over. But like, yeah, and you know what's funny is that I'm pretty sure
if they're cars and they drive everywhere, like what happens when the little kids get tired? You can't just put them in the car because you are a car. Like, they can't all get in a car to go somewhere.
No, they just have to park in their garage or they park on the side of the road and go to sleep.
I guess so.
I don't think the logic
I think they just put gas in them. I don't think that's how cars work.
I also appreciate how Barbie, the logic is not really thought out. Like, they thought a lot of logic out, but like with the drinking of the, like in the eating and the drinking and the showering and all that, her feet are the most beautiful things I've ever seen. Her like pointed, that was not CGI. She just was on her tippy toes, like a friggin' real life Barbie. It's amazing. But then there's a lot of stuff they just made up and you just go with it. And I like that about, like, not everything has to make sense.
Really?
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, we'll put a pin in that one.
I just like that, though. And how Will Ferrell's like, her ghost lives on the 17th floor. It's just so funny.
Okay, as we wrap this episode, remind everybody, please go to our socials and things and vote for us in the Signal Awards. And Becky, do you have anything you want to say before, or like recommend or say?
I just watched a lot of shows.
Yeah, I've been watching a lot of shows. I'm watching the new season of Sex Education now.
But they were all, you mean Barbie? Because they're all in the movie.
Yeah, I'm watching the new season of Barbie.
The entire cast is in that movie. I watched the guy that made Sing Street and Once, Irish filmmaker, Jim Carney, I want to say. Maybe it's not Jim, but that's his last name.
Lily doesn't remember names.
I don't remember his names. But Flora and Son, it's on Apple Plus, I think. It was a very sweet, his movies are always about music. And I think it was a very sweet movie. It might be, there's some language stuff with, like, maybe for your kids, but besides a few inappropriate, like, moments, I think it's a very sweet movie you could watch with your kids about music bringing a family together.
Cool. All right. I don't know if I have anything to add right now, so I'll just say you can follow us at Friday Night Movie on all of our socials or FridayNightMovie.com. Our theme music is by What Does It Eat? And fun to do this in person. Love you guys. Bye.
Bye. Love you.
Thank you for listening to Friday Night Movie, the sibling rivalry and pop culture podcast. Join the Friday Night Movie family by following at Friday Night Movie on all of the socials and visiting our website, FridayNightMovie.com. Our theme song is by What Does It Eat? And make sure to leave us a review on Apple Podcasts or wherever you get your podcasts. Thanks for listening.